Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go. So this morning we are talking about perspective.
Yeah.
So this is quite a good one, I think, because this is really just a reminder that we all get to choose, although we might forget, we get to choose the lens through which we see the world. So we all have, through our own experiences, through our background, through the way we've been brought up, through how we have moved through life, we all have our own perspective on life, on how things go. But the thing is, we can sometimes forget that actually that perspective is conditioned by those experiences we've had so far. And some of those experiences might have been very negative and might not have been serving us to the best they could have been. So it kind of can force us to see the world through a lens which perhaps isn't as helpful as it could be.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you bring awareness to this and you realize that you actually get to choose that perspective, that lens through which you see the world, and it is just, when you do that, it is so freeing. It makes life so much more enjoyable. And that is what we're going to really talk about today, just to bring awareness to this, because it's so easy just to go through life thinking that the way that you see the world is how everybody else sees the world, and then that is just the way it should be. But actually, it's not. And I've definitely, through my life, have done that. Just thinking, oh, this is how it is. This is how things are. And so, if someone's doing something which I don't agree with, then it's very fair for me to judge them for doing that. Or if something isn't going my way, then that's going to really upset me. But actually, when we can bring awareness to the fact that, oh, I don't have to think like that anymore, I can change the way I see that, it feels really, really good. And it just makes life so much less stressful, so much less frustrating, and so much more enjoyable.
Totally. I am so grateful that I finally realized this and how it works, because we literally can choose to take a different pair of glasses, put them on our face and look through them. And there is a quote, I've got no idea who said it, but I think it might even have been, maybe it was Wayne Dyer, I can't remember, but anyway, it goes, the world, hang on, how does it go? It says, the world, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So I'll say that again. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And this is just so true. And like you say, when you really, really, really realize this and you start living by it, it changes your life. And I 100% am so much happier than I used to be. I used to, before I realized this kind of revelation, because it is a revelation when you realize this and when you actually become aware of it and when you start putting it into practice, it truly is a revelation. It changes the way that you experience the world. And the fabulous thing is that, like you say, we have a choice. We literally have a choice as to which pair of glasses that we put on in the morning and how we see the world. And you've only, I always think quite a helpful way to think about this is you can have two people in exactly, let's say you've got identical twins who live the exact same life, and they're both sitting on a bench, and one can basically two people seeing the exact same thing can perceive it completely differently. You can have one person seeing something and being so grateful and, you know, looking for the good and therefore finding the good and therefore experiencing that particular whatever it is in a certain way. And you can have another person sitting next to that person on the bench who is moaning and complaining and seeing the exact same reality, quote unquote reality, in a completely different way. So we have to realize that the way that we experience the world and life truly is down to the lens that we choose to view it through. And that isn't to say that we can't have bad days, and that isn't to say that we can't feel bad and experience all of the emotions. Of course we can, but it's essentially cultivating a more positive mindset to see the world through. And again, that doesn't mean bypassing all the crap that happens in the world at all. It just means that when you wear a slightly rosier pair of glasses, it just means that you deal with things so much better. And the great news is that we get to do this. We can literally shift our focus, like literally overnight. And like anything else, and all of the things that you and I talk about, it is a practice. But the truth is that when you practice this over and over and over again, and when you bring awareness to this every single day, it becomes more natural to look through this more positive lens. And I know that from my own experience. And the funny thing, and the really interesting and the really amazing thing is that the more you practice this, the more automatically you start to see things in a more positive way. And that is what I've found for sure, is that as I've been doing this and really bringing awareness to this for the last 4 or 5 years, now my brain, because I've trained my brain and I've created those new neural pathways, now my brain automatically goes to this sort of lens of the world is working for me, the universe is working for me, rather than everything is working against me, which is very much how I used to be. I used to be sitting in this victimhood, this negative mindset, you know, seeing everything through this really negative lens, looking on the downside, being really pessimistic. And actually the crazy thing is that we can train ourselves to be optimists if we are, you know, if we lean a bit more towards pessimism. I certainly was one of those people who I was, and I still am at my core. You know, I definitely, I more automatically or more naturally lean towards being a bit of a pessimist, but actually you can train yourself to be more of an optimist. And when you do that, it just changes your life. And I see so many people being so resistant to this. And, you know, we can only meet people where we're at. And it, you know, I didn't get to this point until I kind of got to it by myself. But when you do, and when you start to bring that awareness to the lens through which you're looking at the world, it's a game changer. Everything changes.
Yeah.
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
And I think that we, through evolution, have a negativity bias anyway, naturally, because that obviously has helped us survive. You've got to be vigilant to the threats around you. So we do, I think, naturally have this inclination towards negativity. And you're right, this isn't about blind optimism. It's not about skirting over all the challenges and the difficulties and not acknowledging them. It's actually embracing them and seeing them through a different lens, in that actually, okay, this is a difficulty, but rather than going, oh, woe is me, why is my life so hard, why is everything so difficult, it's a bit like, it's more like, let's embrace this challenge, let's overcome it, and then wow, look at me, I've overcome all of these challenges, and look at the strength that has given me, look at all the lessons I've learned, look at the person I'm growing into being. And just having that sort of growth mindset, that flexibility of I suppose, of a nervous system to be able to cope with all of the challenges does make you a stronger person ultimately. It's about actually being able to look at a situation and be able to actually see the good in it. So for example, I've just had, this is probably why I'm feeling a little bit foggy this morning. I just had such a fun weekend. We just did, because we're going away for Christmas, we had a big family Christmas this weekend. So we had all family came to stay, and I was cooking dinner for a proper Christmas turkey and everything on Saturday for 16 people in our family. And actually, I wasn't doing it on my own. My sister was there, and we always do it together. Do the whole of the food, and it's so funny because I look back and no criticism, because my mum was doing it the best that she knew how. But I look back to when she used to cook, for example, a Christmas dinner for the family, and it used to be the most stressful situation ever. It was never enjoyable to watch. It was just so stressful because she was so worried about getting it all perfect and right, and so it just took the joy out of it. And she never really enjoyed it. Whereas I go the other way and think this is so much fun because I get to be in the kitchen with my sister. We work so well together. We have such love, and we don't really worry about the outcome. We just believe it's all going to come together and it's going to be amazing, because it always does. It always works out. And so what if it's an hour late? So what if something isn't quite, perfect? It doesn't really matter, because actually when it all comes out, everyone's so hungry, everyone wants to eat it. It is always delicious. And so yeah, we always just choose it's going to all be fun, and the process is fun. The end result always works out. And we could, like my mum used to do, just worry about it all being perfect and, oh my God, that's not going right, and it all really stressful. Or you just choose that it's going to be fun. And I think particularly this time of year, we put so much pressure on ourselves. This one day of the year has got to be perfect. Yeah. And I don't know about you, I always think the actual day of Christmas is actually, we used to be as a child, it always was a bit of an anticlimax, because there's always still and it was never as good. Whereas if you can enjoy the whole process of the build up and the shopping and stay calm, and then it's all fun, and know that actually the end day is just a day that you're just going to spend with your family and have fun. And so it's just the lens through which you choose to see it. Yeah. And my motto with everything, and particularly when there's a lot of different moving parts, many of which could go wrong, is everything always works out for me. Yeah. And it always generally does. And I say it constantly to my husband. It slightly drives him mad sometimes when he's because he likes to know every single detail of everything. And I'm just like, it will work out. It will always work out. And it always does. Everything always does work out. There might be a few challenges along the way and to overcome, but it's nothing that we can't actually work out. Yeah. There's always something you can kind of work out and take a lesson from. And if it didn't go the way you intended, then so what? Let's just go with that way. And I know that attitude, I have had that for quite a long time, because it used to drive my mother mad. I remember planning my wedding, and she was just getting all kind of, needed to know all the details. And I remember I just was like, it's going to be fine. But she found it very difficult to see it the way I did, because she thought I was just not caring and being far too relaxed about everything. But it does generally work out, and it's a much more fun way to live life. Just trusting and not worrying about the outcome, in the sense. And it's not that I don't care. Of course I want it to go well. But I know from experience that the more relaxed I am, the more that rubs off on everybody else, and everyone else is going to enjoy the process as well.
Totally. It's almost like, I think one way of sort of looking at this is, it's almost like you have to choose to look at it like a game. Like if you're new to this, and if you are perhaps one of those people who tends to be more negative and be more of a pessimist, you can just challenge yourself to just play a game and see how it feels. And that game would be, everything's always working out for me. What if you just took one day, and on that one day you just chose to believe that everything is working in your favor? Because when you just choose to sort of view it as a kind of a game, you will see how much of a difference it actually does make when you think about the fact that everything is, everything's working out for me. Everything is, the universe is working in my favor.
A really good place to start with that, Lucy, is car parking. So I always, if I'm going somewhere where there's not often a car parking space, I'll just say to myself, oh, well, there will be a car, I'll find a space. There will be a space, because there always is a space. And I always do it, and there is generally always a space. And you just say, there will be a space, and you'll find a space. It's really, really weird how that always seems to work. I don't know why it is, but I always find a space. And you will do.
Totally. And the other way to look to I think look at life, we've talked about gratitude on this before, on Monday Motivation before, and I've talked about it on my podcast before a lot, because I think, if in doubt, just see life through the lens of gratitude. When you are, if you're having let's take Christmas, because obviously Christmas for some people is, is difficult. It can be difficult for lots of us. And actually, I think, like you say, it can be, the day itself can be such an anticlimax. But when we choose to look at things through a lens of gratitude, it will always, always, always help us. If, say, you're with your family on Christmas Day and actually so-and-so is driving you crazy and that person's really annoying you and you're feeling this and that and the other, if you just take a moment and think, do you know what? I'm actually so grateful that I am here with my family on Christmas Day. Yes, they may drive me mad, and yes, that always annoys me, and blah 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 blah. But as soon as you choose to view things through the lens of gratitude, you suddenly feel so much better. So again, if in doubt, just be grateful. Just be grateful, because there are so many benefits to gratitude. It's good for us mentally, it's good for us physically, it's good for us emotionally. And all of us, no matter who you are, anyone who's watching this or listening to this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, you have a phone, you're all right. It's just, wherever you are in life, there really, really is always, always, always something to be grateful for. And it's it's so, so simple. So if you find yourself falling into that really negative way of looking at the world, try and just think of a couple of things that you're grateful for, because gratitude just immediately shifts you into a more positive frame of mind. And, it really, truly works. So those two things, think of this like you're, number one, playing a game, and number two, try and look through life with using a lens of gratitude. I talked about this recently, I think in my membership, Thrive Solo. It's like it's almost like we want to be living from gratitude rather than looking for something to be grateful for or waiting until there is something for us to be grateful for. We want to be trying to live from a place of gratitude, so that gratitude becomes your default setting. Because when you come from a place of gratitude, when you start to see the world through a lens of gratitude, everything changes. And again, you and I always talk about this. We've got to be aware before we can change anything. And then actually, it is a matter of choosing. Every single one of us, no matter what our circumstances, we can choose to see things through the lens of gratitude, and we can choose to see things through the lens of, it's all working out for me, the universe is working in my favor. Because at the end of the day, going right back to the very beginning of this conversation, the lens through which we are looking at life is everything. And any of us at any time can change that lens. We can literally remove the glasses that are full of, anger and negativity and hatred and fear and all of that, and we can choose to put on a new pair of glasses that are full of love and gratitude and all of that kind of stuff. And it works. It really, really works, and it's going to change your life for the better. And who doesn't want that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think also taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, we can get so so caught up in the nitty gritty of what is going on. And actually, if you take a step back and just kind of ask yourself, will this actually matter in a week, in a month, in a year? Is this actually worth even getting upset about? Just taking a step back, looking at the big picture, and actually, that really helps you just get a better perspective on life. In terms of what's truly important, what really, really, really matters.
Totally.
And also, this really is all about also just a big reframe. Can you just reframe those moments which are causing you stress, making you anxious, making you frustrated, and just say to yourself, actually, what is it I can learn from this? And can I actually be grateful for this experience at some point, maybe further down the line, which I can't quite manage now because I'm feeling the frustration, which is fine, and it's important that you feel that, but will there be a lesson in this? So, for example, I just think back always to my really crappy 4 years when I was really in the depths of suffering with all the perimenopause symptoms, not knowing what was going on, feeling horrendous, and certainly not able to have any perspective on any of it. But actually, I'm so grateful for that now, because it's kind of totally changed my path of what I was doing and helped shape what I'm doing today. And without that experience, I don't know if I would have found anything which I'm doing now. And that would have been, maybe I would have done in another sense, but I'm so grateful for that experience. And I think we've all got things in our lives which haven't gone wrong and they were tough at the time. And when you're in it, it can feel really difficult, but there's always something which you can learn from it, which you can be grateful for from it. And you will emerge the other side. And again, it's how you choose to see it. You could see it as the worst experience of your life and dwell on it for years and years to come. And I think we all know people who have had experiences and they just go on and on and on about it and dwell about it. They feel like the victim, and it's not a positive experience at all. Or other people who've also had really shitty things happen in their lives, but they've chosen to find something positive out of it and move on and use that experience for learning and improving and something bigger and better, and those are the people who are going to get more out of life ultimately.
Totally. And actually, what's really interesting is to notice the people around you, because when you start noticing this in other people, it makes you kind of go, oh my gosh, I can see myself in them. Like when you if you are in that really sort of if you're wearing a lens that is really not serving you and is really not helping you, when you start recognizing that in other people, it's like, oh my gosh. And actually, I think, speaking of perspective, another thing to literally put everything in perspective is just to just not take life too seriously. Because when you think about it, we are one of 8 billion humans who are all somehow, being held down by gravity on this fucking great ball that's flying through the universe. And when you think about it like that, like, why are we all worrying? It's crazy. None of us are going to be here for that long. We're all, we're all born and then we all die, and then other people are born and other people die, and that's just the way that. And that sounds really kind of really cynical in itself, but actually, when you think about life like that, it just helps you to take it a little bit less seriously, and therefore sort of, just feel a bit lighter about it. So remind yourself on a regular basis that there are 8 billion people on this planet, and we are literally just holding on to this giant sphere that is hurtling through the fucking universe. And when you think about it like that, I mean, what the hell? Why do we worry about we worry about such tiny things? So when you really do put it in perspective, when you get some perspective on life and on the world, and the fact that we're just this tiny little pinprick in this vast, infinite universe, it really does make a difference to how, you know, you can be getting wound up about something, but when you start to think of it in that sort of perspective, from that sort of perspective, you just think, oh my god, why the hell am I worrying about this thing, or why am I allowing myself to get annoyed by that thing? Who cares? Why does it matter? It really, really doesn't. So I think it helps to, you know, think about it from that, you know, shift your perspective in that sense, and just think about how, you know, what is life? What are we doing here? You know, it's crazy when you think about it, but it helps, I think, to cultivate a more positive mindset and just a less, again, take life a little bit less seriously.
And then that also attracts the people to you who also have a bit more of a positive mindset, as we always bang on about. You know, everything is energy. So if we are constantly dwelling on the negative, then that's just going to bring more of that to us. Whereas if we can see life through a different lens, a more positive lens, then it really will attract those sorts of things to us, like the parking spaces, like the better experiences, and it's, you know, I know which path I would rather choose. It just is much everything feels much lighter and more fun and playful. And you know, of course there are difficult experiences and challenges, but again, it's just knowing and trusting that there will be something good in, you know, you might not feel like it, but there will be something to come out of it once you can get a bit of perspective on that situation. So yeah.
Well, we're pretty much at 1:30, so I think and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to sort of wrap this up, but I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I think we have. It's just, you know, ultimately it comes down to just that awareness again of where your mindset is, which angle, you know, which lens do you lean towards, and can you shift that? And it comes down, I truly believe it's down to those moments of quietness, of peacefulness, of, you know, you can have a daily practice, meditation, breathwork, whatever that is, just to really tune in to those moments of quietness and awareness, so that you can then notice how you are. It's cultivating that self-awareness, so you can notice how you are perceiving the world, and so you can ultimately change it. And it is, you said at the beginning, it's a practice, it's a constant practice. And I'm by no means perfect at this. Sometimes I fall into that negative spiral, but it's catching yourself as you do so before you get too deep into it.
And reminding yourself that we always have a choice. I think that is key as well. It's that awareness, and then what choice are we going to make? And notice if you feel resistant to making the more positive choice. Notice if you are wanting to sit in that negativity and sit in that victimhood, which I absolutely used to do, and still do sometimes. But ultimately we have a choice. So choose the right pair of glasses to look at the world through.
Perfect. All right, my love. Well, listen, I hope your back gets better.
Thank you.
And I'll speak to you.
I'll speak to you later.
Time.
Lots of love, babe.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.